What is up, guys? Private Eye Russ here, and welcome to another episode of the Private Eye Russ Show. I am your host, owner, operator, full-service private investigation and consulting firm, corporate theft investigations, litigation support investigations, criminal investigations, personal one-on-one, personal development coaching. If you need any of these things, links down in the description below, website, contact page, reach out to me. Some of you have my email address. Follow me on X at Private Eye Russ, and I will take care of you. All right, so let's go ahead and also to be noted, I don't just conduct investigations in the state of Florida. I have a network of investigators around the country and internationally. So if you have a need for an investigator, if you need a problem solved, reach out to me and I'll take care of you. And today I'm wearing the bowler of justice. All right, so we're going to talk about someone being brought to justice. Some of you know that, well, you guys should already know if you've been a subscriber for a little bit, that I'm also, besides a licensed private investigator and owner of a private investigation company, I'm also a licensed bail bondsman. I do not own a bail bonds company. Bail bondsmen will contract me to track down and arrest their skips, people who didn't show up to court and do what they were supposed to do. Just a side note, I find it weird that people don't realize, they don't read the bond contract. If you read the bond contract, you are not actually a free person when you get out. You are in a modified form of custody. The bail bondsman owns you. So a lot of your constitutional rights are actually suspended until you have your day in court. So I can go anywhere in the nation. If you skip from the state of Florida, where I'm licensed as a bail bondsman, and I find you in Alaska, as long as the bondsman is willing to pay for the transportation costs, I can go grab you in Alaska and arrest you and bring you back to the state of Florida, legally and lawfully. I can do that in any state in the nation. If you're hiding in someone's home, like people don't believe this, but if you're hiding in someone's home, and I know for a fact that you are there, I can legally break down the door. Now, the homeowner can sue me later, but I can legally break down the door, break and enter to grab the person that they have paper on. All right. Now, I don't operate that way. Some bail bondsmen do. I use soft skills a lot more. I use my words and social engineering, and I talk people into custody. Now, every now and then, things get a little bit more physical, but for the most part, I can talk people into custody, which is how I'd rather do things, have people have a dignified, entry into jail. But, at the end of the day, it's a bill they have to pay. So speaking of bills that have to be paid, we're going to talk about we're going to hear about somebody who got brought to justice. Let me see here. There we go. Fair use.
Run now for nearly 20 years is finally caught all the way over in Europe. Police say their number 2 most wanted fugitive, Michael Wiseman, was arrested in France. 12 News journalist Sean Rice is here now to explain how detectives across different continents helped to finally bring him in. Sean.
Yeah, Troy, this was quite a lengthy investigation and a lot of commitment by Scottsdale police as well. They tell me this case started in Scottsdale back in 2008. That's when Michael Wiseman was arrested here in Arizona for child exploitation. Since then, he's fled the country multiple times, but Scottsdale PD detectives, they never gave up. Now, after years of tracking digital clues all around the world, they have finally got their man.
Living on the run, not once, but twice.
Okay. Everyone leaves a digital trail. People watch TV shows and movies, and they think they can just go on the run and disappear. I know people who actually have disappeared. I know a couple of people personally who actually have disappeared, and they managed to. However, it's not as simple as it looks like it might be on the movies and television. It is difficult to hide your digital footprint. But this guy made some very key mistakes, which we'll hear about shortly.
There's enough resources out there that you can't live a normal life if you're on the run for that long.
Michael Wiseman's run-in with the law began back in 2008. Scottsdale police opening an investigation into possession of child pornography. After his arrest, Wiseman cut off an ankle monitor and fled the country, evading capture for years.
You see this a lot. They go really easy on people who are alleged. Obviously, he hasn't had his day in court, so he is suspected of possession of that material they mentioned. I don't want to say it out loud, but you know what I'm talking about. And I always wondered why, people like this usually get a slap on the wrist. I've never, I don't bond people out. Again, I don't write bonds. I could open a bail bonds company if I wanted to. I may in the future at some point. But I've had other bail bondsmen contract me to say, hey, this is what this guy, and I always examine what they do. What did they do? Okay, because you want to know if the person's a violent person who's fleeing. So if they say, okay, this guy is a gangbanger who's suspected of 12, carjackings on a drug induced robbery and burglary spree. I've actually had to track somebody down who had those charges. That's a little bit different case. That one did get a little bit physical, but you want to know what these guys did. And so, I've had on several occasions where they did this or they did that and it involved children. I'm like, oh man. And so obviously, we still go after them. We go after them, we track them down and we arrest them. But these guys get so much leeway, man. I don't understand it. But let's keep going. Fair use.
He was applying for a pilot's license in Spain using his real name, and
Okay. Sorry. All right. So that's it. All right. So fugitive tactics number 1. If you're trying to remain incognito, and you're trying to remain on the run, maybe don't use your real name that you want under. You're an international fugitive under. Sorry about that outburst. I just think that's ridiculous. But all right, that's his key mistake, using your real name. And that's pretty much how they caught him, it sounds like.
his potential employer Googled his name and found that he was on Scottsdale's Most Wanted.
Employers more and more are Googling people's names. Someone asked me the other day, what's my go-to public information source? Like, I've got a bunch of different information sources. Being a licensed investigator, I've got a lot of database sources that I can reach out to that everyday citizens don't have. But along with that comes a lot of responsibility. I can't use that information improperly or poorly. Otherwise, I get in trouble, a lot of trouble. So, and men and women, they Google each other all the time, and so they Googled the guy because that's what people are going to do. And he gave his real name, and obviously his face is who he is. And they looked up and said, hey, wait a second, this guy's a fugitive. Okay, but yeah, Google is used quite a bit. People will use your name. And, this is why being falsely accused of grape is such a detriment, because most employers and most people in general aren't going to look past and say, okay, they'll say, okay, this guy was arrested for suspicion of aggravated sexual battery. All right. And so, which is here in Florida, that's the statute for, that's what they call grape. Right. And so nobody's going to look, most people don't look past it. I look past it because I'm a licensed investigator. Most other people do not look past it to see, okay, the charges were dropped. All they're going to think is this guy is a grapist. He's no good. And so you're screwed. And many of these websites and news agencies never print retractions unless you really, really force the issue, and it costs money to force the issue because you have to hire an attorney to do so.
List and called Spain authorities.
Wiseman would be extradited back to the States, convicted and sentenced to time on probation, but he fled.
On probation. Okay, so possession of evil prawn, I won't say the name of it, and then fugitive from justice, and ankle monitor on probation. Like, dude, he's on probation. Why? Why is this guy on probation? Does that make any sense to anybody? You guys tell me in the description while you're here, before I keep going, please hit like, subscribe, share, and tell me what you guys think about some of the, like, this guy, why was he back on probation? He fled the country. Some of the most vile and disgusting stuff he was in possession of. I don't even want to talk about it. And then he gets probation after fleeing the country. Okay, that's what I was talking about when I talk about they get slapped on the wrist. I don't get it. I don't get it, man. But all right, let's keep going.
Again, this time disappearing into Asia and Europe under an alias. The case went on for a decade.
Okay, so he learned his lesson, started using a different name versus his own name that he was wanted under. And so they let him slip through the cracks again, which, I think is really suspicious that these guys are allowed so much leeway. This is why I've had to track down several of these guys that have, one who actually worked for, I won't say the name of the company, but the Mouse House, if you know what I'm saying, which there's quite a few of them actually that get arrested for that, oddly enough.
with little developments when Sergeant Dustin Patrick took over the case.
In 2022, we found a virtual mailbox that somebody was using, and the IP addresses that were being accessed were being accessed from Vietnam.
Investigators traced him to Poland, then France, when a search warrant on his email led to a break in the case.
Someone had shipped him something, and they took a picture of the shipping receipt, which included.
Okay, this is another way people screw up. So if you're actually going to disappear, you have to drop everybody. Why? Because like this detective who did a fantastic job, obviously they've got more resources than I would ever have because I can't subpoena anything about a private investigator. But I do find ways to get around those things, very creative ways to track people down. And one of the most common ways you can track people down is their loved ones and friends. People almost never leave everyone behind. The people I know who have successfully disappeared because they were willing to and had the ability to walk away from everyone and everything. Most people don't have that. I know a lot of you think you can, but at some point you're going to reach out to your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your ex-girlfriend, your husband, your wife, your kids. That's one of the ways people track people down. People might disappear. How many people want to walk away from their children? Not very many. And so these things can be exploited. Why? Because they are a potential chink in the armor. And so he got a package, and there he goes.
Included an address. And so that is what gave us the address in France.
That address in Kilstedt, France, a rural community in northeastern France, population 2,500.
So he went to farm country in France, but he messed up by having someone send him something. Virtual mailbox. That's why when I talk to people and they think, they know how to cover their tracks and hide, it's like, nah. If somebody wants to find you and they're really determined, they can find you, especially law enforcement.
French authorities arrested Wiseman on November 1st and discovered new evidence, videos showing him sexually abusing one of his adopted children.
Okay, this is why these guys should not be given so much leeway and freedom, okay? Fled the country on his first charges, on probation. He's like, yeah, you know what, I'm out, leaves. They catch him. They give him more leeway, and all right, I'm not going to even get into it. I'll wind up going on a rant, and you guys don't want to hear that, so.
It was incredible that from 2022 to 2025, my team and I didn't give up. And we just kept coming across dead ends, and then we kept overcoming them.
Now only one fugitive remains on the Scottsdale Police Most Wanted list. Robert Fisher, the man wanted for allegedly killing his family.
Okay. All right. That's a whole nother video, I'm sure. But sounds like these detectives are on it, so I'm sure they're going to catch him. So, the reason I'm doing it's a reaction video to this is because, obviously I'm a licensed bail bondsman, and I've had to find very creative ways to track people down. And, there are instances where we can track people down, and I have tracked people down internationally, but after that, it's up to the courts. And so if the courts are willing to issue an order of extradition, which is extraordinary, unless their charges are really, really egregious, or unless it's a really, really high-profile case, that's not going to happen. So we've had some frustrating moments where we've actually tracked people down to foreign countries, and nothing came of it, at least so far as I know. But nothing immediately came of it, and so that's just how that goes. Sometimes, again, we're not federal law enforcement, and so there are limits. But within the continental United States, Alaska, Hawaii, if I track you down somewhere, I can put handcuffs on you. Naturally, the smart thing for me to do is going to be contact the local law enforcement agencies to make sure they know what I'm doing. That way there's no confusion that winds up with me looking like a piece of Swiss cheese. And so you want to avoid that sort of confusion. But barring that, most law enforcement agencies, actually all of them, are actually pretty cool about that. I had one recently where I got a call from a bail bondsman, hey, can you track this person down? And they happened to be in a municipality where I know a lot of police officers because I was a cop there. And so, I went there. There was a thing going on. I went to the two lieutenants that were on duty. It was like, hey, they greeted me with my old call sign. They were like, hey, I said, look, man, I'm going to go pick this guy up. He's over here. And they were like, hey, do what you got to do. That's your thing. I said, well, I want to make sure that, I give them the courtesy of doing that. There have been instances where bail bondsmen have not informed law enforcement of what they were doing, and then they show up with all this tactical gear, which can be kind of dangerous because then people are going to call the police and say, hey, there's a bunch of guys with, armed dudes showing up and they're doing X, Y, and Z. So then when law enforcement shows up, they're going to be amped up. Why? Because the man with a pew pew call is very, very serious to a lot of these guys, and they're ready to go. And so, and it has wound up with people losing their lives. So I'm always very, very careful about that. However, you've got to be incredibly, shout out to these guys in Scottsdale who tracked this dude down, because it took years, and it takes a lot of determination to keep going. And this is one of the things I try to tell people, like even with investigations or when it comes to bail bonds, bondsmen aren't really that sensitive about time unless they're really running out on the statute, because you do run out of time to grab these guys and be able to get your money back. And so, when bail bondsmen hire somebody to go after somebody, they're not worried about the 10% they get for writing the bond. They're worried about, because they're on the hook, not just for the 10%, they're on the hook for 100% of the face of the bond. So if it's a $1 million bond, the person had to put up a minimum of 10%, so $100,000. That's the bondsman's fee minus what the insurance company gets for underwriting it. All right, well, okay, guess what? If this guy disappears, the bondsman is not on the hook just for that $100,000. He's on the hook, or they're on the hook for the total face, which is $1 million. This is why they'll go after people or hire people like myself to track them down and arrest them, so that they don't lose all that money. So, you've got to be, like when I talk about people with investigations, what people have to understand is that every investigation, things don't, especially private investigations, things don't just end because you get tired of waiting for an outcome. Some things take a while. And I know people get really impatient. Like I've had a client recently where, he thought the federal law enforcement agencies should be bent to his will because he wanted something to happen. And I'm like, look, man, we can't control what federal law enforcement does. All right, that's up to them. They're going to do their own thing. I'm not a governor. I'm not a mayor. I'm not a senator or a congressman. This is what we can do. We can control what we can. After that, it's up to them. And so their wheels do turn, but they turn slowly sometimes. So these guys took years. With bondsmen, they do have a statute. It starts to diminish. After a certain time, you can only recover 90%. And then after that, it goes down to 70%, then 50%. Then you get to the point where you don't get anything back at all. And so you have nothing. But bondsmen still have gone after people just because on general principle, they're like, you know what? This dude cost me a bunch of money. I want him in jail. And so what I try to tell people is this. You may run for a while, but you're only going to be tired when you get caught. You're going to get caught eventually. Face up to what you need to face up to. Take care of whatever your responsibility is. Pay that bill. The sooner you pay it, the cheaper it is. The longer you wait, the more expensive it's going to be. Anyway, it's your boy Private Eye Russ. I will talk to you guys in the next one. I am out.